Hi, my name is Veronica, and you're watching Dante's Boxing Nation. How did that one do?
That was very good. Do it, just maybe one or two more, okay? Dante's Boxing Nation, what's going on, guys? So now that Bob Arum has completely disowned Terence Crawford, and now he's the Cinderella man of Top Rank, there's a very good chance he's going to jump ship and go over there to PBC and Al Haymon. His contract expires this year, I believe in October. So boxing promoter Lou DiBella, he gave his take on the entire beef between Terence Crawford and Bob Arum. And he says Terence Crawford will move to PBC if the money is right. He also spoke on Bob Arum completely dissing his own fighter, Terence Crawford. He attributed some of it to Bob Arum's age, saying that when you're 80 years old, you just don't care anymore. But at the same time, Lou also said he was surprised at what Bob said about Crawford, and Arum went overboard. Listen, there's no surprise or no secret that Terence Crawford will most likely go to PBC. I mean, no one wants to be in a place that they're not wanted. Now, this is just pure speculation, but the fact that Terence Crawford attended an Errol Spence live for the very first time, to me is a slight indication that he most likely had a conversation with Al Haymon already. They're already negotiating a possible deal. And I wouldn't be surprised if Al Haymon actually invited Terence Crawford to the PBC fight. The question now is, does Al Haymon feel that Terence Crawford is worth the money to buy him out of his contract right now, as opposed to just waiting for Crawford's contract to expire? But the problem with doing that is right now Shawn Porter is Terence Crawford's mandatory. So there's a very good chance that Porter may end up getting Crawford next. But at the same time, Shawn Porter, he's been kind of going back and forth, and after the Errol Spence performance where I told you that looked more like a 70 to 80% Errol Spence, it sounded like Shawn Porter, he kind of shifted. He indicated, that version of Errol Spence will not beat me. He said something like that, and he did a couple of interviews. One interview, he started off talking about, how it would be great fighting Crawford because it's a complete new challenge, but he ended the interview when asked who he's going to fight next, he said he's going to fight Errol Spence next. So I think Shawn Porter is looking at Errol Spence the same way Manny Pacquiao is looking at him, or the same way a lion would be looking at a wildebeest that's a little bit slower than everyone else in the pack. It's the best time to strike. But even if Porter wants to go after Errol Spence, it's going to be up to Errol Spence. Because if Spence gets the Manny Pacquiao fight, then that leaves Porter and Terence Crawford almost no choice but to face off. So we'll see how this all plays out. Now, before I wrap up this video, it's really important to address this situation. What's going on YouTube? Surprisingly, it appears you have a lot of black folks on YouTube that are going after a lot of certain black fighters. And Terence Crawford is one of them. But when I say going after him, I'm talking about damn near on some personal gangbanging stuff. Not journalism or media stuff. I'm talking about straight up and down beef. And the reason why I have to address this, because these type of cats are causing a lot of confusion on the internet. I got people sending me messages asking me, hey man, what happened to so-and-so? I thought you guys were cool with Terence Crawford. And when I hear them say you guys, like, oh, now they're including me because they heard someone else say it. And that's where the real problem lies. Because we ain't about gangbanging over here when it comes to new media. This is about the whole truth. This is about integrity and professionalism. And I'm not trying to say I expect these cats to act more professional and be media. I just want to make it clear, just because these cats are black, don't think they have anything to do with new media. I mean, you got some of these black folks I'm talking about creating beefs between other black fighters. You got fighters now talking about beating up reporters, personally dissing reporters. When it was just new media, there was none of this stuff going on. There was none of this confusion. And once again, when it comes to Crawford, you got black folks going after Crawford harder than the racists are going after Crawford. I mean, even the racists are like, damn, I need to step my game up because these black folks are still in our shine. Listen, I'm not trying to say you're not supposed to criticize someone if they're wrong. I don't care who it is. It could be one of my favorite fighters. If they say something that I completely disagree with, I'm going to expose it, right? If a fighter says something that sounds hypocritical, I'm going to expose it. But it's never going to be personal. For example, when Terence Crawford and his trainer said, we only want to fight champions from this point on. We're only looking for the cats that have the belts. Of course, when he said that, he left himself open for criticism once he decided to fight someone next who didn't have a belt. In a case like that, all I'm doing is quoting Terence Crawford, using his words. I've done the same things with Errol Spence. And this is the reason why cats like Crawford and Errol Spence, they're still personally cool with me, because they know when I do it, it's professional and it logically makes sense. None of it is personal. But once again, what I'm saying is, when it comes to these other cats, they are personally going after him. They are going out of their way to make videos just to basically diss Terence Crawford, just to basically ride for Errol Spence. But what's so ironic is the majority of people that's doing that today, these are the same people that were doing the same thing to Errol Spence a couple years back when Crawford first moved up to welterweight and start calling out Errol Spence. Just because Errol Spence was looked at as the biggest boogeyman, that's when they used the opportunity to use Crawford against Errol Spence. And they were doing the exact same thing to Errol Spence back then that they're now doing to Terence Crawford. No consistency. This is what I mean when I say you have cats on the internet causing complete confusion and chaos. I mean, going back to causing beef between other black fighters. You got cats on the internet creating beefs between Andre Ward and Deontay Wilder, causing beefs between Floyd Mayweather and Deontay Wilder. And when I say they cause these beefs, everything that they say is always based on them personally not liking these black fighters. They don't like Crawford. They don't like Floyd Mayweather. For a while, it was Errol Spence that they didn't like a couple years back. But now they're cool with Errol Spence, and now they don't like Terence Crawford. They don't like Devin Haney. Oh yeah, but they want to get interviews with all these cats, but they don't like them. Speaking of interviews, that's another reason why a lot of these cats will diss some of these fighters, like Crawford and Floyd Mayweather or whoever else. Because they feel, okay, if he don't want to give me no interview, then we just gonna start dissing him. But you come off as worse than the decaf if that's the case. That means everything that you're saying is based on emotion. It's not based on telling the truth. It's based on if you can get an interview by that person or not. That's not how the truth works. That's how loyalty and gangbanging works. But that's not how the truth works. Regardless if a person ever gives you an interview or not, the truth, it never changes. And it's not supposed to change. If you base your commentary off of who you like and who you don't like, then you're just a boxing fan with a YouTube channel. Then you're just a cheerleader with a microphone making YouTube videos. You guys are causing major distractions in the sport of boxing and doing the racist people's jobs for them. In fact, Max Kellerman, one of the grand wizards of the decafs, he brought one of his members on his show, which was Chris Mannix, and they started talking about who's pound for pound number one. Now, keep in mind, ESPN has always had Terence Crawford as number 2 behind Lomachenko, even though the majority of the boxing panel on ESPN had always said Terence Crawford was number 1. But I digress. So anyway, Max Kellerman, he's asking Chris Mannix about pound for pound who's number 1. But the way he sets up the question is by saying, you know, a lot of people think that Terence Crawford is not number 1 because of his weak resume. And then get this. He then says, because ESPN is not biased, I want to ask you, Chris, Who do you have as your number one? And of course, Chris Mannix, he says Canelo Alvarez. So going back to what Max Kellerman said, when he said a lot of people are saying that Terence Crawford has a weak resume, et cetera, who do you think he got that from? He got that from the many people that have been spreading this nonsense on the internet, from the YouTube to Instagram comments, et cetera. Everyone that's been buying in to hearing these black decafs on the internet talk. Like I said, these cats I'm talking about are making the racist people's job easier and easier. Now let's go back to the list. First of all, I want to let everyone know, back in the day before social media emerged, we had real, liable pound for pound lists. Ones that you could take to the bank. I mean, they made sense. Every spot, every slot position, it made sense of where a fighter was on that list. You may have, a fighter one up or one down, but overall, the list made sense. Now the majority of people's pound for pound list is just a list of their favorite fighters. A popularity type of list. Just like when Jim Lampley came up with his own Gaddy's list. Because at the time, a lot of the people that were in the top 3, not just number 1, but in the top 3 or the top 5 were black fighters. So he decided to make a Gaddy's list. Fighters that he personally liked, which were always non-black. Until Floyd Mayweather ruined his plans 1 month, and he ended up having that grueling fight with Cotto. And you can tell it pissed him off. He was forced to put Floyd Mayweather, the man he hates the most, on that list because of his toe-to-toe type of performance with Cotto. But going back to ESPN and Max Kellerman, see, this is where ESPN messed up. They didn't expect Lomachenko to lose anytime soon. So they made a mistake of putting Crawford right behind Lomachenko. And then once Lomachenko lost, obviously, number 1 will be Terence Crawford, but Max Kellerman, he's still trying to find a way out of it. He was like, well, yeah, he has to be number 1. So how do I find a way to put someone else who's not black at number 1? Oh, I know. I'll call up my member, Chris Mannix, and I'll have him say it to the people. I'll have him say exactly what I want to say. Therefore, I won't look like that much of a hypocrite. So because of some of these black cats I'm talking about on the internet and Chris Mannix, Max Kellerman, he was able to put his propaganda on full display. I mean, do you really think it's a coincidence that Max Kellerman, he never had a problem with Terence Crawford's resume when he was at number 2? He never talked about Canelo being rated higher than Terence Crawford when Crawford was number 2, right? He only says this when Lomachenko loses the number 1 spot on ESPN's bias list. Do you guys ever notice every single time people like Max Kellerman, old media, these type of reporters or organizations that always puts a non-black fighter on the top of the pound for pound list over maybe black fighters that deserve to be number 1? Do you guys notice the person that they put at number 1 always ends up losing way before the guy who always should have been number 1, way before he loses? You guys notice this? Perfect example, Chocolatito Gonzalez. Had him over Crawford, had him over Andre Ward, had Chocolatito Gonzalez over everyone. You fast forward to present day, Andre Ward is still undefeated. He retired undefeated. Terence Crawford still undefeated, while facing better competition than Roman Gonzalez at higher weight classes. They put Golovkin at number 1. He lost. They put Kovalev at number 1. A lot of you guys probably don't even know that, but a lot of websites had Sergey Kovalev at number 1. Some had him just top 3, but like 2 in particular had him at number 1 pound for pound. He lost. Andre Ward still undefeated. The debate today, for the most part, has always been either Lomachenko or Terence Crawford. No one really took Canelo's bid serious, except for, of course, The Ring magazine, which is owned by Oscar De La Hoya. That makes sense. So a lot of these racers are forced to backtrack and scramble because they never expected Lomachenko to lose this soon. They never thought it out. It wasn't a well thought out plan. What if Lomachenko loses? That means we have to put Terence Crawford at number 1. So what are they doing now? They're changing the rules. I know we had him at number 2, but let's go ahead and put number 6 at number 1 or something like that, right? We know what time it is. I'll close out with saying this. I created New Media. New Media is my brand. And I don't want New Media to be associated with all of the ridiculous nonsense that's going on right now on the internet. I remember in the Wu-Tang documentary, one of the artists, he was talking about how there was a news story. It was reported that a Wu-Tang member had committed a crime. I don't remember if it was murder or robbery, but it turned out to be false. It was just someone who was claiming Wu-Tang. But the news, they took the story and said Wu-Tang Clan member has committed a crime. And the artist in the documentary, he was explaining how, you got a lot of people, who support what we do and they ride with us, but just because they rolling with us or something like that doesn't mean that they're part of Wu-Tang Clan. They can support us, but it doesn't mean that they're an actual member. And I feel the exact same way with New Media. I don't have a problem with people shouting out New Media. I appreciate that. Everybody's showing the love. But I just want to make it very, very clear. If you guys don't hear it from Dante, if you don't hear it from my man Aki, then it's not New Media saying it, okay? I just want to make that very clear. So if you hear somebody say, F Terence Crawford, F Devin Haney, F this fighter, F that fighter. Oh, and by the way, shout out to New Media. He ain't New Media. He's just showing New Media love. Now, this is not to suggest that we're not going to have new people representing New Media in the future. I'm just telling you who's officially representing it now, because New Media is all about the whole truth, the consistent whole truth, not the whole truth on Monday, catering to the racists on Tuesday, and then gangbanging on Wednesday. That ain't New Media. So now you know what it is. I'm gonna wrap this up. That's all I got for now, guys. I'm on to the next one. All right, now check this out, guys. If you're looking to repair eczema scars, burns and bruises, dark spots and blemishes, then this right here is the perfect product for you guys. It's called Elo Diki Face and Body Oil. Athletes and top-ranking boxers, they're also using it after training to reduce swelling, inflammation, and to ease the pain. So get yours today. Go to elodiki.com, like them on Facebook, and follow them on Instagram. What's going on, guys? I've always wanted to find a second source of income. And I've always wanted to learn about stocks and trades because I've heard so much good stuff about it. So I finally found a way to do it. And now I'm learning from 6, 7, 8-figure traders. So not only am I learning from them, but the most important thing is I get to copy their trades. So if you want to get this hooked up for my brothers out there in the UK and Europe, make sure you check out the Scalp This on Instagram. On the link below. And for my brothers out there in the States, make sure you go ahead and contact my man Scalp Carolinas on Instagram. Just by watching the video, you're doing a great job of supporting my channel, and I appreciate it. And the craziest thing about doing this trading is you can do it anywhere. All you need is an internet connection, and you can do it just with your phone. So if you want to learn how to make a second income alongside me without having to pitch, sell, fellas, I've got some great news. Go ahead and click on the link below. If you've lost your hair or have a receding hairline, the time has come when you can finally get your hairline back through a process called scalp micropigmentation. So here's how it works. It's a hair tattoo that replicates the look of your hair follicles when you have fully shaved it down.